Hi, class. Welcome to our showing versus telling lesson. I call this painting pictures with words. So, as you are writing your essay, you want to make sure that you're being descriptive. And this lesson is going to show you what I mean by showing versus telling. A telling sentence lacks description and detail. It's mostly absent of vivid verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. Telling sentences are boring and they leave little impression on the reader. For example, perhaps I was telling the story of a fire that I witnessed. And I said, the fireman rescued the child. Now, that is a clear sentence. There's really nothing wrong with that sentence. But in terms of it giving me any kind of detail, it's lacking. I have many questions. Did the fireman rescue the child because there was a fire? What did the fireman look like? How old is the fireman? Is the fireman healthy and strong, or has the fireman also been injured in his rescue? How old is the child? Is the child conscious? Is the child upright in his arms? Is the child lying down in his arms? And what exactly do I mean by rescued? Is the child actually in the firefighter's arms, or is the firefighter working on the child on the sidewalk after he has taken him out of the building? So I have all these sorts of questions. However, showing sentences use deliberately and purposefully chosen adjectives, verbs, and adverbs. Imagery is important to use as well so that the reader can relate to the writing. Throughout this class, I will be making comments on your papers and talking to you about creating images, creating imagery. Imagery is the use of 5 senses in writing. So, what did you hear at that scene? What did you taste at that scene? What did you smell at that scene? What did you touch or what did you see at that scene? So, I can take the earlier sentence about the fireman and I can then show the fireman instead of tell you about the fireman. Through the dark, heavy smoke cloud, an exhausted, injured fireman cradled the limp baby girl in his arms. Now I ask you, which would you rather read, this sentence or this sentence? I know my answer. It's this one. I can see what's happening. I might even be able to imagine that heavy smoke cloud. I can see the fireman with a cradled baby in his arms. And I just am able to imagine through these word pictures exactly what the author is trying to get at. So let's practice. Imagine that for our class, I asked you to write about a former boss. If you didn't have a boss, you can think about your parents' boss or some example in your life where you've heard people talk about their supervisors. You decide to write about your old boss. His name is Sam True. On a first attempt, you might write, he was a very unpleasant person. Sam True was not what I would call an honest person with anyone. His family didn't seem to care for him, and I didn't like much to look at him. He wasn't very handsome. As a boss, he left a great deal to be desired. His actions with his customers defied the laws of good business, and it was hard to see why they returned except that he allowed them to charge things, and they lived beyond their means mostly. So, you've written quite a bit here. I see some things about Sam True. He's not pleasant. He's not honest. He's not nice to look at. He wasn't, he left a great deal to be desired as far as being a boss. And so I have a lot of questions. First off, where do you work? What did you do there? What does Sam True do there? What is he supervising? What is he the boss of? When you say unpleasant, what does that mean? Does that mean that he was just really quiet and sort of ignored everyone, or does that mean that he yelled at everyone? You also say that he wasn't an honest person. Does that mean that he lied, or does that mean that he cheated people out of their money? His family didn't seem to care for him. I didn't like much to look at him. He wasn't very handsome. In most of these cases, you're leaving the description of Sam True up to me, the reader, to fill in the blanks. What you mean by unpleasant, what you mean by not honest, what you mean by not very handsome. You're leaving me to make up my own definitions of that. And so, as your writing teacher, I would send this back to you and ask you to show me, like we did the firefighter, and not tell me. Show me Sam True. Do not tell me about Sam True. On a second attempt, and after thinking about it more, you might revise to Sam True was very unpleasant. He did not have a reputation for honesty, and he was not physically attractive. He was an inadequate employer, and the way he treated his customers indicated he was not an effective businessman. The only advantages his business had was that he offered credit to his customers. So, I think I see what you did here. So, when I asked you those questions and asked you to show me and to use different language, I think you think maybe that I meant the language should be smarter sounding or more intelligent. So you're no longer saying not handsome, you're saying not physically attractive. Or rather than saying not honest, you're saying doesn't have a reputation for honesty. Rather than saying he wasn't a very good boss, you use the term inadequate employer or wasn't effective businessman. Now, I didn't mean that I wanted you to sound what you might think is more intelligent through the use of bigger vocabulary words. That's not what showing is. You can show with smaller words and with maybe the kind of words that you don't consider to be really intellectual words. You can certainly show with those as well. I meant to take Sam True and really show him to us. What does he look like? What does he smell like? What kind of things happened in the place where you work? I still don't know. Is this a business office? Is Sam True head of marketing? Is Sam True work in a factory and he's the boss of a big factory line? There's still so many questions that I have. And so I, as a reader, will fill those in with my own knowledge, but that's not what you meant. So I am not able to see Sam True. You have just told me about Sam True. So I may send this back to you. And this class is going to be a class where we have a lot of revision. So try not to get frustrated by that. This third time, you use the sensory images that I've asked you to and the specific details. Here we go. Sam True ate cigars. Wow. That is really vivid. He'd roll his thick lips back from his teeth, mean little teeth, yellow and sharp, and you'd see them grind away at the wet rope of tobacco. That was the first thing I noticed when I went to work for him, the way he chewed his cigars. After a week in Sam True's butcher shop, I realized he treated his customers the way he treated his cigars. He gave everyone credit, and once he got his teeth into them, he ground away at their self-respect. When Jack Smith's new widow came in with 3 boys and asked for a pound of hamburger, please, I guess on credit, I watched Sam raise his lips to receive a new cigar and saw his teeth snap down. I knew she would get the hamburger and Sam would get his bite out of her pride. Wow. The fact of this is captivating and vivid. Again, which would you rather read? The Sam True of this version? The Sam True of this version? Or the Sam True of this version? I know my answer. In this third revision, I now know that Sam True is a butcher. I didn't even imagine him as a butcher. This is a butcher shop. We also see an example of how unpleasant he is when Jack Smith's widow comes in. Notice there's also dialogue, and dialogue helps to create the character of Jack Smith's widow, where she says, I guess, on credit. We see Sam's teeth. We see him chewing down on cigars and ultimately chewing down on people. We see how he seems to be mean, and that he is disrespectful to his customers. This is an example where we show and do not tell. Remember, in all of your writing, show, don't tell, please.